KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
Joseph Emerson is originally from Cheney. He is accused of trying to shut down engines on a plane mid-flight to San Francisco on Sunday.
It's very concerning. This is such an extremely rare situation.
Airline captain Laura Einsettler says what Joseph Emerson did on Sunday is rare, but not impossible.
Especially the larger aircraft have most of our engine controls on the center console. The jump seaters and all pilots can access that area.
Emerson now lives in Northern California, but he's originally from Cheney. The Cheney School District confirmed that Emerson graduated from Cheney High School in 1997. This video is an alumni profile that the school district did with Emerson 8 years ago.
I'm gonna be a pilot.
In the video, Emerson says he got interested in flying in elementary school. He got his first pilot certificate at 17 years old after learning to fly at Phelps Field. Emerson was in state court earlier today. Court documents say Emerson told police he had a nervous breakdown and did not sleep in 40 hours.
Only thing they told us when it was happening was it was a medical disturbance.
Paul Stephen was a passenger on the flight from Everett to San Francisco. He wasn't quite sure what was going on.
And then the comment when we were getting close to landing was there was a cockpit disturbance.
The documents also say that Emerson took psychedelic mushrooms for the first time 48 hours before the flight. But it's unclear whether Emerson was actively under the influence of mushrooms during the flight. I had the chance to speak with a man in Cheney who lives close to Emerson's family. He declined to be on camera, but he says he's surprised about what Joseph is accused of doing. He describes the Emerson family as some of the nicest people ever. In the studio, Nathan Han, KREM 2 News.
We did learn this afternoon that a Latah County judge will deny one motion to dismiss an indictment against Brian Kohberger on the grounds that there were inaccurate instructions given to a grand jury. Judge John Judge praised Brian Kohberger's defense team on a creative and informative argument Thursday.
I appreciate the argument. I think it's really creative.
The defense asked the judge to toss out a grand jury indictment because they say a Latah County grand jury was told to find probable cause to indict Kohberger. Attorney Jay Logsdon argues the standard of proof for a grand jury should be beyond a reasonable doubt, even though other Idaho courts have disagreed with that same argument before, according to the judge.
Occasionally, rarely, but occasionally, somebody says, no, that guy's right, and my client wants out of prison. So
that's fine. You can make an argument that something should change, but are you telling me that other places in the state are giving a different instruction, that it should be beyond a reasonable doubt?
The state argues the Idaho Supreme Court has already been clear on the issue, that probable cause is the standard. The judge agreed and let Kohberger's attorneys know he'll deny their request to throw out the indictment.
I am constrained by what I believe is settled law in Idaho. I may be wrong, but this is certainly an issue that you would have to bring up with a higher court.
It's important to note that there was also a separate motion to dismiss the indictment from the defense on the grounds that they say there was grand jury bias and some issues with evidence during that proceeding. That hearing was heard early this morning behind closed doors because anything to do with details of the grand jury proceeding are sealed. A ruling on that motion has not yet been made public. In Latah County, Shannon Maupin, KREM 2 News.
You think about it, it's news that comes as a shock, and you're something you're not expecting, and but something that you need to make the decision to obviously focus on your family at this point.
City Communications Director Brian Coddington says the mayor is still engaged and in regular contact with staff at City Hall, but they're giving her the space she needs.
She learned of the diagnosis yesterday afternoon, and so her mother is in the hospital.
In the meantime, interim city administrator Garrett Jones will handle basic operations of the city and take care of anything that requires a signature from the mayor.
Customarily, when the mayor's on travel or on vacation and away from the office for a period of time, a signature authority delegation does occur, and it typically goes to the city administrator. So that will be his responsibility.
Coddington says the signature delegation goes through Sunday, but could be extended depending on how long the mayor is away.
We'll reevaluate over the weekend as to what next steps might have to be taken, but at this point in time, we're going to just give her through the weekend to be able to focus on family.
It's a very busy time of year for the mayor. Not only is the election 13 days away, but her proposed budget is due to council a week from now. Coddington says staff are finalizing those details.
At the end of the day, we're all human. We all have families, and so it's nice and appreciated to see. I know she appreciates that support very much, and we have to put family first.
The question comes from KREM 2 viewer Douglas, who asks, are private-owned community apartment tenants allowed to display political flags, signs, etc. from balconies and windows? To verify this question, we turn to Jeremiah Chin, an associate professor of law at Seattle University and Washington State Law. RCW 643834 states, the governing documents may not prohibit the outdoor display of political yard signs by an owner or resident on the owner's or resident's property before any primary or general election. However, it continues, the governing documents may include reasonable rules and regulations regarding the placement and manner of display of political yard signs. Professor Chin adds some clarity.
Generally speaking, if I'm renting an apartment, what does the law state about whether I can display a political sign, let's say, on my balcony?
So displaying a sign for, personal, especially political reasons is usually covered by a couple of things. It could either run into a leasing agreement with your tenant or landlord, or a municipal ordinance, like your city has rules and regulations about signs.
Professor Chin says a tenant's ability to display signs depends on a few factors. If your landlord is a private party, and if such signs are specifically allowed or prohibited in your lease agreement. If signs are not mentioned, Chin says you probably are okay to display them within reason.
If your rental agreement doesn't say otherwise, there would be no real problem with it, unless you're trying to put together like a 10-foot tall neon billboard on your balcony window, and then you're more worried about things like nuisance or something like that.
If your landlord is the government, Chin says, the First Amendment comes into play, placing fewer restrictions on tenants.
It would probably give you more protections to live in government subsidized housing, because now if the government is your landlord, they have to follow the First Amendment more clearly than a private party like, just a regular person renting to you.
So we can verify if your landlord is a private party and your lease agreement does not specifically prohibit the display of political signs, you are generally okay to display them within reason. If your landlord is the government, you have more protections to display your sign.
This is the old Triumph Composite System facility here in Airway Heights, but soon it'll house the American Aerospace Materials Manufacturing Center, just one of 31 tech hubs developed across the country. According to the Spokane International Airport, there are more than 50 aerospace suppliers within 20 miles of Spokane. Northwest I-90 Manufacturing Alliance Executive Director Stacy Nelson says that's not by accident.
This region is an active part of the supply chain from parts and subassemblies.
Some of the suppliers in the industry-deemed I-90 Aerospace Corridor are working together as the Inland Northwest Consortium. The consortium includes local universities and government agencies and is led by Gonzaga University. The Economic Development Administration awarded the group one of 31 regional aerospace tech hubs.
From our point of view, it's a result of years of hard work from companies like Acrofab, who have been an active part of the aerospace supply chain for a number of years. And so this actually gives us an opportunity to build off of that, to grow the ecosystem and create more jobs.
Nelson says the hub will not only create new jobs, but also provide advancement in aerospace technology.
We will drive innovation in aviation and aerospace.
Now, the Tech Hub members are eligible to apply for Phase 2. That could grant them up to $75 million for continued aerospace manufacturing, opportunities, and development. The state says the EDA picked Spokane's consortium out of nearly 200 applications. In Airway Heights, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
A lawsuit filed in Spokane Superior Court claims John Franklin and his 19-year-old son were chased down and shot by a security guard protecting the Bonville Power Administration in Meade last month. John died at the scene. His teenage son was injured but lived. According to court documents, the two were motocross enthusiasts and brought a dirt bike to ride in Meade near public trails. The lawsuit says Franklin's son was behind the wheel and bumped a no trespassing sign. The two were soon pursued by an intercon security guard working for the power company. Court documents claim they pulled over and the guard escalated the situation by grabbing John by the arm, eventually throwing him to the ground when he tried to get back into their vehicle. John's son claims he tried to protect his dad but moved away fearing he would be pepper sprayed. That's when the guard fired 4 to 5 shots, according to the lawsuit. John died at the scene. His son was also shot and has since been released from the hospital. The lawsuit claims Franklin and his son were unarmed. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office says the two were trespassing on federal land, and witnesses saw them attack the guard before the shooting. The guard who fired the shots has not been charged. Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
The Spokane NAACP was one of more than 10 minority groups that signed off on this letter to Spokane County Commissioners. This letter says the selection process for a new racial equity committee chair lacked public engagement and discussion. The 2-page document claims the county selection of a chair of the Racial Equity Committee is insufficient. The letter calls the decision-making process inherently, quote, racist or potentially tokenizing. Local NAACP President Curtis Robinson says these are qualities he's seen repeatedly in county leadership.
This speaks to that, as the letter does, that larger pattern of just dismissiveness when it comes to the lived experience experts that have been doing work, boots on the ground with the impacted communities here, that this appointment is supposed to address the disparities in engagements.
The chair reports to the Spokane Regional Law and Justice Council and leads efforts to address racial disparities in the criminal justice system. Robinson says more could and should have been done before making a final chair selection.
What we're looking for in this is to have this, have the county commissioners do an authentic reach into communities that pull us in to deal with the problems that we're having that they're saying they have to deal with.
Commissioner Josh Kearns responded directly to the letter during Wednesday's meeting.
Quite frankly, was not helpful and was quite unproductive in this process.
The appointee, Jennifer Morton, is a Black woman who serves on the Airway Heights City Council. In her cover letter to the county, she states she's an active participant in city council meetings and has an interest in the SRLJC's overall goals. Robinson says he recognizes Morton's accolades, but doesn't feel comfortable not knowing her outside of her online presence.
Where was the community engaged in talking with this person? Where was this person in community forums hearing about what our concerns were?
KREM 2 reached out to Morton for response on the concerns around her appointment, but did not hear back. Robinson's ask for more time to consider was shared by both Commissioners Chris Jordan and Amber Waldriff. Despite this, the Board of Commissioners ended their discussion by appointing Jennifer Morton as chair in a 3-2 vote. This is information from the county explaining what the expectations are for the committee chair. It says applicants should be able to have a broad understanding of what the criminal justice system looks like regionally, be an active participant on the council and committee, and be a Spokane County resident. In Spokane, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
A group made up of representatives from Medical Lake and Elk met to talk about their immediate and unmet needs. The Spokane Region Long-Term Recovery Group was formed shortly after the fires. Medical Lake's Mayor Terry Cooper leads the Spokane Region Long-Term Recovery Group. The group first formed shortly after the fires as a way to discuss immediate and unmet needs.
People are devastated, but the resilience in the community is incredible because people care for one another.
In their meeting, the group focused on the delay of asbestos testing and keeping people warm as the weather gets colder. Richard Zeinert is the chairman of the Elk Long-Term Recovery Group.
Riverside High School did a fundraiser and brought in $50,000. And with some of those dollars, we're buying tools, equipment.
Zeinert says about 60 families who lost their homes in Elk are living in RVs on their property. But as the weather gets colder, he's focused on winterizing their space of living.
One lost their propane heat in the middle of the night and just barely survived till morning. So as it gets cold, the needs rise quickly.
Washington State Emergency Management said between both areas, 242 homes have been tested for asbestos. Unfortunately, not many homes have tested positive for the harmful fiber.
10% of the tests have been positive, and within the test, they have a grid, so it might be only 2 or 3 spots that were hot.
But Zeinert says getting results has frustrated families.
The labs will take 2 to 3 weeks. So we might have 2 feet of snow out there by that time.
As homes test negative for asbestos, crews have come in to clean up debris.
We don't know what our next emergency might be, but this is going to be a long term. We're not going to go away.
Cooper said she's already seen progress. One destroyed property has already began rebuilding its foundation. For people who are still looking for help from the fires are encouraged to call the Spokane County Emergency Line. In the newsroom, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
Well, believe it or not, employees at Northtown Auto Sales say this isn't the first time someone has cut a hole in their roof to get inside the building. Police were able to recover some of the stolen cars, but tonight, this dealership is still missing quite a few sets of keys.
This giant dog is hard to miss driving down Division Street, and early this morning, he wasn't the only one on the roof of Northtown Auto Sales.
They had knocked through 2 layers basically of a vent to get into the office.
General Manager Nick Arata says the Mission Impossible style heist started just before 2 this morning.
One person came in, rappelled down through the roof, grabbed 15 sets of keys, rappelled back up the roof, and then he stole a minivan. So he was, pretty thought out process. He didn't take a sports car for the first one.
Arata says the thief used the minivan to pick up more thieves.
Bringing people, dropping them off, taking cars, and they were driving them off the lot.
Over the course of 3.5 hours, they got away with 9 cars and keys for 6 others.
We're pretty numb like the petty theft. But when, they show up and they take 9 cars and you got $250,000 worth of inventory missing, now you're like, oh my gosh.
Arata says they've dealt with criminals drilling gas tanks and breaking car windows.
The day before yesterday, someone broke into a Toyota Corolla and took the nav screen.
And less than a year ago, someone cut through the roof, but nothing was stolen.
We didn't think they were going to come back through the roof again and do a Mission Impossible, but they did.
Hours into their investigation today, Spokane police arrested a man and recovered several of the stolen cars, including this BMW and Mercedes. Arata says he's making improvements to security and finding a safer way to store their rack of keys. Northtown Auto may also need a new guard dog.
Yeah, he is not doing his job.
The Spokane police have not identified that man arrested, but tell us that he's facing 9 counts of vehicle theft and 1 count of commercial burglary. Police say their investigation is ongoing. Reporting in North Spokane tonight, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Spokane County's equipment is at the ready. Those snow plows, sanding and de-icer trucks, as well as stockpiles of de-icer and sand. But the newest tool in the county's toolbox may not be the largest by any means, but it could make a big dent in a common winter complaint. How far we've come. A long way from Spokane County's snow plows of old. There's still a lot ahead for county crews this winter.
5,100 lane miles. So remember, it's a lot of road for us to clear.
A day ahead of our first round of snowfall, Spokane County Public Works unveiled the newest tool to tackle a common winter headache.
Some people call them a snow gate, we call them a boot. And basically, as the operator is grading and the snow is flowing off to the right, as they approach a driveway, they can drop this boot down.
The new boots will reduce pesky berms blocking your driveway.
It's one of the biggest complaints I think we get in this area. It's a pain. You might wake up in the middle of the morning and go to work, and here you got a 2-foot berm you can't get across.
But it's not just saving you a headache, it's saving you money, because each piece was designed and created right here in the county's central shop by their own fabricator welders.
And so the guys just said, hey, I think we can build something that works for the operators, doesn't get tore up as much, and does what we need, and we can do it cheaper than if we go out and buy it.
Cut from 20-foot-long metal sheets, each hand-welded boot costs about half the price of buying one from a manufacturer.
I figure, just as round numbers, we probably saved a couple $100,000.
A little bit of ingenuity that'll go a long way this winter.
And then they've also talked to the crews to figure out how they can make it better each time. And again, it's just these little tweaks like this, holding it up out of the way. You wouldn't think it was much, but you tear off a couple of hoses and you're down for an hour.
And now one thing to note is that these new boots can only be used in the curbed streets and residential areas of the county. Shannon Maupin, KREM 2 News. Well, flexible was the word that we just kept hearing over and over today as the city of Spokane unleashed its snow response plan. For some in Spokane, the weather is already frightful.
And how apropos that it is snowing as we launch our snow season plan.
But the city says it'll be flexible as the first snow of the season hit Wednesday.
We're trying to create a much more responsive system that allows for flexibility and quick response to our changing weather conditions.
That flexibility, Woodward says, will mean sticking with what's worked before, like pulling from other city departments to staff all city plows.
Which we do in 3 days now and not 4.
The city will also keep using satellite locations for winter storage of sand and de-icers.
Left, right's backwards.
For the crews on the roads, like plow driver Jeremiah Benches,
I was a garbage man before this.
flexibility
So I was used to driving through, tight alleys.
is a big part of this job. It's why they train on this obstacle course.
And then you gotta move it that way.
Because on the street, those barrels.
Oh, I missed the barrel. Good. It's hard because the front of the truck becomes longer.
Are actual cars and curbs.
And so you gotta work on your turns.
Which is why they ask you to park off street if you can, or park along the odd numbered side of the road the season. So as crews hit the road for 12-hour shifts with a few breaks.
So other than that, I'm plowing the ground trying to get the city clear.
They're asking for your patience and flexibility.
I basically want to plow everybody's streets how I want my street to be plowed, which is, clean, clear. I can get to my driveway easily, and I don't have to do a lot of shoveling, because nobody likes shoveling.
Pageantry, masks, and of course, the takedowns. Lucha Libre is a sport like no other and has captivated the hearts of people young and old for generations. For luchador Rey Jaguar,
it's like a dream. Since I was a child, I have a dream. So to become a luchador is one of the best things ever in my life.
While Lucha Libre has just made its Spokane debut, its history stretches back hundreds of years to a time when masked Aztec warriors would perform symbolic fights between gods. Today, the masks have become an iconic image of this sport.
This is the mask. Nobody needs to know who you are. You can be next to the crowd and they don't know you. They think you are unreal. They think you are not like a cooker or a painter or a regular person,
But these luchadores are real, and behind the masks, they hold their own stories. You won't hear it from him, but El Halcón Negro got the inspiration for his name from his years flying Black Hawk helicopters in the military. And Rey Jaguar got his start 10 years ago by reading an ad in his local paper. These aren't professionals by any means, but that doesn't stop them from flying high, hitting hard, or having fun.
It's a very wonderful sport.
Aiden Brown, KREM 2 News.
We kept refreshing it because all of a sudden it was getting a whole bunch of views and likes. And we're all on the Instagram, so it kept notifying us that it was getting more and more likes. And we were guys, at one practice, I remember we were all stretching. Yeah. And we're guys, have you seen our pendulum? It's blowing up.
Fanny Gove. I'm Mia Probelski.
I'm Shayna Crabb.
I'm Taylor Grenier.
Give me a B!
We saw it.
It was so random.
We saw it on Instagram first.
Yeah, so we kind of copied people, but we blew up for it. So I guess we did it better. Yeah. I didn't. Give me a U! Our senior last year, her name's Kenna Caprinko. She's the one who found it on Instagram, and then we showed it to our old coach, and she was like, let's try it. And it was kind of just a wing of the moment thing, and then it turned out to be our crowd's favorite stunt thing that we do, and then it blew up on Instagram. Yeah. So here we are. Give me an L! It's one of our easiest stunts. It looks so complicated almost, but it's literally one of our easiest stunts. It's almost like a team bonding experience too, just to make sure that everything hits. We all have to be just together and working as a team. It's really cool. Last year we beat Lakeland in one of our competitions, which hasn't happened in forever, and it was probably one of the best memories I have with this team. So we've come a long ways. We have a lot of variety this year, and I'm so excited for
I think they need to watch out for us this year.
Yeah, they definitely need to watch out. We're bringing it back, that's for sure. Yeah. It's been exciting but stressful all at the same time. I've seen a whole bunch of girls come and go. I've seen us improve so much since my freshman year. I'm just really proud of everyone.
Just become best friends?
Yeah.
What's that smell? Bulldogs! What do we want?
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.